The following is not an exhaustive examination of homelessness. Important voices, those of the homeless themselves, are missing from this exploration of how to address the crisis. To hear one of those voices, please go to youtube.com and search for Beyond Soup and Socks.
It all got started when there was an individual that came into the building on a Sunday morning, and somebody that was homeless and had some mental health issues. This person was interrupting services and bothering people in the congregation. The struggle was, how do we keep our congregation safe, and how do we respond to the needs of this person? What it did is make us look deeper.
And then at the same time, John had heard about the Senator Kirby report, and he had a lot of concern and felt that we should be doing some kind of education. We needed to be letting people know how bad it was in Vancouver in terms of the homelessness and the number of people and the increasing number of people who were homeless.
We had the opportunity back in 2007 to host or 2008, the mayoral candidates debate between Gregor Robertson and Peter Ladner. We had 1,000 people show up for that event, and it was more than 3 times as large as any of the other mayoral-to-candidate debates. I can remember Gregor Robertson showing up at that event and seeing 1,000 people in that church. He chose to add that to his platform. We instantly built some credibility with the municipal government through that. We met regularly with the government. St. Andrews Wesley did a great job of collaborating and facilitating, connecting people, educating people.
We did the Multi-Faith Alliance, and we focused strictly on housing and homelessness. As a result of our coming together, there was a meeting with City Hall with Gregor Robinson, with all of the Multi-Faith Alliance people, and it was like a round table discussion, and he was bringing us up to date on what was happening.
Getting the government to really take this issue on as part of their platform and help champion it really started to change the attitudes of people in the city. I mean, there's a much greater understanding and compassion for it today.
Fantastic to see everyone, and what an important evening to be gathering in support of ending homelessness. First of all, let me thank all of you for being here.
How much political push there is that comes out of that is hard to tell. And to what extent the solutions being thought about through those conversations and dialogues are solutions that still want to operate within the confines of the market.
The goal was to end homelessness. And I believe that was possible. If we could, educate enough people, and we could advocate hard enough, and get enough like-minded people to come together, that we could get, a response that would end homelessness. What I've learned is it's not quite that easy, and it's not that it can't be ended. It's that influencing and affecting change is a process, and it's a long process.
The homeless count that just came out shows the highest number of homeless people on record in Vancouver and Metro Van, and the street homeless population is up by almost 250%.
I think they're saying the count right now is 560 something homeless people in Vancouver. That's absolutely appalling that there is that many people who are without a roof over their head. A place to call home.
The fact is that low-income housing is being lost. Areas that have been primary areas for low-income people to be able to find affordable rent are being gentrified. Rent evictions are rampant, and people are losing their housing quickly.
I am amazed at the number of people who are 60 years plus. I used to think, oh, homeless, mid-20s, late 20s or something like that. Well, what's happening is there's a shift and there's more and more seniors who are becoming homeless. And to me, that is just absolutely terrible. I met with a gentleman the other day at First United. He's 82 years of age and he's staying in a shelter. And I think, wow, this is our society? That our elders are homeless and have to live in a shelter?
Many of those that are most adversely affected by this crisis, Indigenous people, single women, migrants, a whole slew of people are often people who are most invisible politically.
The governments know what's needed. Solving homelessness, it's not impossible. I think there's a lot of research. People know what needs to be done. It's also pretty well researched that it actually costs more money to have people living on the street than it does to have them in supportive housing.
Vancouver has become one of the most unaffordable housing urban centers in the world. And we find that in particular for people who are on low income and working class people, this is a very difficult housing market. They're paying way too much.
All three levels of government need to be doing more. You can't just wallow in the glory of 14 sites. I'm not forgiving of the federal government. Yes, it delivers some funds, but what it's about, those funds by the federal government, is managing. There's a difference. It's managing homelessness. Okay? So they give a couple of $100,000 to a church so as to provide meals and place. But that's just managing homelessness. It's not ending homelessness. Is there the political will to make change?
The province is really supposed to carry the housing budget. They have decided, Rich Coleman stated, that we're not in the business of building social housing anymore. And so they're going, again, mostly along lines of non-intervention in the market.
So, St. Andrews Wesley has welcomed us all into this sacred space as very important for us to be able to gather in a place like this, not only to celebrate, but also to think through next steps, think about what commitments we can make on a goal as challenging as ending homelessness.
We think with the Social Housing Alliance that the housing crisis has been created by this development project, real estate going out of control, and developers and a few benefiting from that. And that to address those within the fairly limited range of options that charitable organizations and foundations have, I think is never going to address the issue. There needs to be an intervention in the market by the state in order to secure enough housing for people to be able to live in places they can afford, that are secure, and that offer dignity. And so I think as long as we're thinking about the housing crisis within the framework of the real estate market and not wanting to interfere too much with it, just maybe tweak it, maybe input with some charity, I think all of that is insufficient, and it's not going to resolve the crisis that we're facing.
Changing individual lives today is, to me, as important as trying to change the system. Otherwise, the people that you're there to help aren't going to actually see the help.
You attend the immediate need, which is that person there in front of you. It's like the 82-year-old gentleman who's homeless, and you try to make sure that he's got a shelter tonight, he's got a roof over his head. You do that, and at the same time, you do the nipping at the heels of the policymakers.
We do a memorial service almost every week at our place from people that are living on the street or living in poverty. I want to make sure that we can save people from dying today and not just changing the system so that people aren't dying 20 years from now. There's been lots of talk about residential schools over the last several years, with the TRC, and I think to myself, how could they have done that? It just doesn't make much sense that, they would send, the First Nations people to these residential schools and do that to them. And I believe that my grandchildren are going to say the same thing about us when it comes to homelessness. There's a lot of work still to be done. I hope that this church will continue to do work in that area, and whatever that is. I think that what's important is what the church does outside of the church and what it does for the people outside of the church. And so where I'm working in a community ministry today, I believe that what we're doing is church.
And homelessness now, as a committee, has ended. Myself, I'm now shifted over and I'm on the Justice and Social Action Committee of St. Andrews Wesley. There's a building just completed across the street, 1134 Burrard, specifically for people living with a mental illness. I would like to see us maybe reach out and find out what it is, have a conversation with Kettle and see what it is that maybe we could be doing as a church. It might be an outreach program, it might be something. But I just look at it in terms of, being a good neighbor. What can we do together?
I think that there has to be a significant shift in the way we're doing business right now on the housing front. And so I'd like to see us rethink the paradigm for how we live and share resources and share this land together.
The way you end homelessness is with a home. I mean, it sounds pretty straightforward, doesn't it? And the whole idea is to end homelessness, not to manage it, to end it. People in Vancouver want to end homelessness, want to end it.